She came to meet her boyfriend at a quiet hotel in DC, but when he stepped into the washroom, he made one unplanned move that changed everything. One phone, one open Instagram app, and within seconds, he uncovered a web of lies, betrayal, and something far more dangerous than just cheating. But what he didn't know was that she wasn't just hiding another guy. She was hiding a secret that could bring down people in power. Collision things spiral out of control, and just when you think you understand the truth, it hits you harder. Fire if you're ready for a mind-blowing twist filled with suspense, betrayal, and a chase that'll leave you breathless. Watch the story till the very end. And if you want more gripping stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. Comment below with your theories or story ideas. And become part of the journey. It was supposed to be just a weekend getaway. One night, one hotel, two people in love. She drove 4 hours from Jersey to DC. Said she missed him. Said she couldn't wait till next month. Said it like her heart couldn't bear the distance. He smiled when he opened the door. Hugged her like she was his whole world. They laughed, ordered room service, watched reruns of Friends like they always did. When they couldn't decide on anything else, the city lights bled through the window. They danced barefoot on the carpet, half drunk on wine, whispering inside jokes that only made sense to them. But then he said he needed the washroom. Just a minute. She nodded, scrolling on her phone, thumb lazily flicking through Instagram. The moment the door shut behind him, he noticed it. Her phone. Unlocked. Instagram still open. A DM notification popped up from a guy named Chase Speech Balloon. Curiosity or instinct? He didn't know. But his hand moved before his conscience did. Tap. He scrolled up. He kept scrolling, heart slowing down with every word. Last night was insane. You looked so good in that black dress. I wish you didn't have to sneak out. Still thinking about your perfume on my shirt. His fingers froze. His mind blinked out. He felt the carpet under his feet, but everything else around him disappeared. He kept reading. Photos. Selfies she never sent him. Voice notes with giggles he thought were just for him. He looked up. He could hear the faucet running. He could hear her humming behind the door. Same voice. Same girl. Different truth. His chest tightened. He blinked, trying to hold back the shake in his breath. The washroom door handle turned. She stepped out, towel in hand, hair a little wet from the steam, face soft, eyes playful. But his eyes weren't the same anymore. She stopped mid-step, sensing the shift in the room. What? She asked, half laughing, half curious. He held up the phone, the screen still glowing, the message still there. Her smile faded. His hands trembled, but his voice was steady. Who's Chase? She didn't answer. Not at first. She looked at the phone, then at him, like she was calculating something. Then she stepped forward, slowly, deliberately. Babe, she whispered. I can explain. He took a step back. His eyes never left hers. Outside the window, sirens passed down Massachusetts Avenue. Faint echoes of a city that never paused. Inside the room, time had stopped. He wanted to scream. He wanted to cry. But instead he asked, how long? She blinked, swallowed, and said nothing. His world was unraveling, thread by thread, each second unraveling years of trust. She opened her mouth again, but there was a knock at the door. 3 short knocks. Firm. Urgent. He looked at her. She looked at the door. Neither of them moved. The knock came again. He asked again, louder this time. Who is it? But she didn't speak. She just stared, eyes wide, face pale. And then, softly, barely a whisper, she said, it's not what you think. Her voice cracked, but he didn't flinch. The knock came a third time, slower this time, more deliberate. He walked to the door, but before he could reach for the handle, she rushed forward. Don't open it. He turned to her. She looked terrified now. Not guilty, not sorry, but scared. Why? He asked. Who's out there? She didn't answer, just stood there, arms slightly raised, like she wanted to block the door, but couldn't find the courage. He stepped closer, placed his hand on the knob. The knocking had stopped. But now, there was silence. The kind of silence that didn't feel empty. It felt full, like someone was still standing out there, waiting. He opened the door. No one. Just the dim hallway of the hotel. Vending machine humming in the corner. A housekeeper's cart abandoned near the elevator. Nothing out of place. He stepped out. Looked left. Right. Nothing. But when he turned back into the room, she was holding her phone. Typing. Fast. He saw it. The lock screen blinked on for a second. The same name again. Chase Speech Balloon. Give me the phone, he said. No, she snapped, backing away. It's not. It's complicated. He stepped forward. Voice low now. Controlled. I'm not asking again. She clutched the phone tighter. He could see her thumb shaking. And then the phone buzzed. Another message. He saw the preview before she could hide it. I'm downstairs. You said room 827, right? His breath caught in his throat. You gave him this room number? Her silence was louder than a confession. He stared at her, the girl who just an hour ago was laughing in his arms. The girl who said she missed him, who wore the necklace he gave her last Christmas, who sat on his bed like she belonged there. He stared until his chest ached from the weight of it. Another knock. This time, from the window. 8th floor. His head turned, heart racing. She didn't move. She just stared at the window like she already knew who was behind the glass, and whispered, he wasn't supposed to come here. The words echoed in the room, low and haunted, like she'd said them to herself more than to him. He turned slowly toward the window. The heavy hotel curtains shifted slightly, not from wind, from movement. Another knock. Harder this time. He stepped closer. 8 floors up. No balcony. No ledge wide enough for a person. But there it was. A shadow. Pressed against the glass. What the hell, he whispered. He reached for the curtain, fingers hesitating midair. She ran forward, grabbing his arm, pulling him back. Don't open it. What is going on, Emily? His voice shook now. It wasn't anger anymore. It was fear. She let go. Her chest was rising fast, tears in her eyes, but still not falling. I didn't want this, she said. I told him to stop. I told him I was done. Another knock. Slower. More deliberate. The kind that didn't ask for entry. It demanded it. He yanked the curtain back. Nothing. Just the city skyline. Lights stretching across the horizon. A blinking billboard flashing car ads. Above a Wendy's across the street. But on the glass, a handprint. Large. Greasy. Fresh. He took a step back. Looked at her. Her face had gone pale. Like she'd seen this before. Emily, he said. Who is he? She didn't answer. Her phone buzzed again. He snatched it before she could grab it. Swiped open. The messages kept coming. Chase Speech Balloon. I'm not waiting anymore. You said he wouldn't be here. You promised me, Emily. Then one more. I'm coming up. He looked at her. His voice barely above a whisper. You told him to come here tonight? She shook her head. No. I said I'd tell you everything. I was going to. The hotel room phone rang. Both of them jumped. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. He stared at it. The red light blinking. Unmoving. Cold. She slowly walked over and picked it up. Hello. Silence. Then a voice. Low. Distorted. Almost mechanical. Open the door, Emily. Her hand dropped the phone, and someone began to bang on the door. The banging was violent. Not knocking. Pounding. Like someone was trying to break it down with their fists. He backed away from the door, heart hammering in his chest. Emily froze, eyes locked on the handle, as it rattled under pressure. Call security, he whispered. But she didn't move. The chain lock jerked with each slam. The whole door shook. Emily, the voice roared from outside, muffled but clear. You said he'd be gone. Tears now, streaming down her face. Not delicate. Messy. Real. I told him I ended it, she choked. I swear I told him. Then why does he know this room? I didn't think he'd come. I blocked him. He must have followed me. Another boom on the door. They both flinched. The hotel walls were too thick for anyone to hear. Too private. Too quiet. He grabbed the bedside lamp, ripped the cord from the wall, held it like a weapon. She ran to her bag, shaking hands, digging through clothes, pulling out a small can of pepper spray.
He's not just some guy, she said.
He's different. He doesn't let go. He stared at her, sweat dripping down his temple. You cheated on me with a psycho stalker? She opened her mouth, but before she could speak, the banging stopped. Silence. No footsteps. No breath. No sound at all. He crept toward the peephole, pressed his eye against the tiny lens. Empty hallway. But then, a blur. A body rushed past the peephole. Fast. Too close to the door to be seen fully. He staggered back. Emily, get your things, he whispered. We're leaving.
Now.
She was already at her suitcase, throwing things inside without folding. Still crying. Still shaking. He checked his phone. No signal. Of course. Old building. Bad reception. He turned to her. We go down the back stairs. Quiet. No elevator. She nodded, grabbed her purse, rushed to the door behind him. He unlatched the chain, held his breath, cracked the door open. Nobody. Just that same cart by the elevator. Still abandoned. Still there. He stepped out, looked both ways. She followed, heels clicking against the carpet. Too loud in the quiet. They moved fast, reached the stairwell. He pushed the door open, cold air rushing up from below. A dim light flickered above them. They started down, her hand gripping the railing, his hand still holding the lamp. But 3 floors down, they heard it. Footsteps. Coming up.
Fast.
Heavy boots pounding metal steps. He looked down over the rail.
A man.
Black hoodie. Head down.
Didn't speak.
Didn't stop.
Just kept climbing. Toward them.
He grabbed her wrist. Go. Run. They turned and bolted up the stairs, sprinting back toward the 8th floor. Her suitcase banged against the metal, but she didn't let go. Boots echoed behind them. Faster now. No hesitation. No doubt. Whoever he was, he wasn't stopping. They burst back into the hallway. He slammed the stairwell door shut behind them, wedged the broken lamp handle through the knob. It wouldn't hold for long. Back to the room, she asked, eyes wide. No, he said, thinking.
Scanning.
Then he saw it. A sign. Service access. Maintenance only. He ran, pushed through the door. They entered a narrow corridor. Pipes lined the walls. Steam hissing from somewhere above. Smelled like dust and old copper. He didn't care. They had to move. Behind them, a crash. The stairwell door. He'd broken through. Emily gasped, but he pulled her faster. This way. They passed electrical boxes, warning signs, a flickering red light that barely lit the path. Then finally, a back stair. Rusty.
Steep.
She hesitated. He looked at her. Voice low. Do you trust me? She nodded. No time for anything else. They started down again. 2 steps at a time, boots slamming above them. He could hear breathing now. Grunts. Like the man was enjoying this. Enjoying the chase. On the 4th floor, Emily slipped. He caught her just in time, his arm yanking her up by instinct. But in that moment, the voice came again. From below. This time, closer. You're not supposed to be with him. They froze. He wasn't above them anymore. He was below. Somehow. Emily's breath caught. She whispered, he knows these stairs. He looked around. They were trapped. A dead stairwell. A psycho climbing from both sides. Then he saw it. A janitor's door.
Padlocked.
He kicked it.
Once. Twice.
It cracked. Again. Harder. The lock snapped loose. He shoved her inside. Closed it behind them. Pitch black. Smelled like bleach and wet concrete. She was crying again. Shaking. I'm sorry, she whispered. I didn't think he'd do this. I didn't. A metal clang behind them. He turned. Another door. And a flashlight beam. Sweeping slowly across the floor. The beam moved like it had eyes. Like it was looking for something specific. Not wandering. Tracking. It slid across the mop bucket. The wall. Then stopped. On their feet. He grabbed her hand and pulled her deeper into the dark. No windows. Only the thin slice of light chasing behind them. The sound of the man's breath grew louder. Closer. Sharper. As if the beam itself could breathe. Then the voice. Too calm. Too steady. You shouldn't have lied to me, Emily. She whimpered. He squeezed her hand tighter. The flashlight bobbed again, casting long shadows over broken shelves, rags on the floor, an old generator still humming faintly in the back. There. A vent shaft.
Low.
Barely wide enough. He dropped to his knees, ripped the grill open. Get in. I can't. You have to. She crawled in, her shoes scraping metal. He followed, twisting his body into the narrow tunnel, sliding the grill back behind them. The flashlight entered the room. They stopped breathing. Every inch they moved echoed through the shaft, sounding louder than it was. Every breath, every heartbeat, bouncing down metal like thunder. The man moved closer. They could hear his boots step through water, his breath steady, calculated. Emily,
He said softly.
I'm not mad. I just want to talk. A lie so thick it made her shiver. They kept crawling, ignoring the pain in their knees, the cold metal biting into their palms. He turned behind her, eyes locked on the vent's rear.
It was dark.
But something felt off. Too quiet. No footsteps now. No flashlight hum. No voice. Just silence. Then, from inside the shaft, ahead of them, a metallic click. He froze. Emily whispered, "What was that?" He didn't answer. Because he knew. That sound. That precise, cold sound. It was a lighter. Flicking. And someone was already inside the shaft. Waiting. The flames sparked to life. Brief, orange, just enough to light a face.
A man.
Eyes wide. Unblinking. Crammed into the tunnel ahead like he'd been waiting there. For hours. Emily screamed. Her legs kicked against the metal, desperate to reverse. He grabbed her ankle, tried to yank her back, but she was stuck, panicking, flailing. The man's voice echoed inside the vent, twisted and distorted. Too close.
Too calm.
You made me crawl through this, Emily. Another flick. The flame danced inches from her face. He shoved forward, pushing her back, blocking her with his body. Move, he shouted, forcing her to retreat. The man struck out, scraped his hand across the metal, a spark jumping from the lighter as it dropped. Everything echoed. Her sobs, his grunts, the scuffle. Then, a sudden rush of warm air. He turned. Behind them, another shaft exit. A grate.
Loose.
Emily now. She crawled faster, tears blinding her, her elbows dragging along metal. He blocked the tunnel behind them, as best he could, but the man kept crawling, relentless.
Smiling.
They burst through the grate into a boiler room. Concrete floors, pipes hissing, a low drone of machinery. He slammed the vent shut and kicked it in. Emily was on her knees, gasping. Her voice shook. He was in the vent. How did he know? How did he know where we'd go? He didn't answer, just stared at the door across the room. Another way out. Maybe. Then he noticed something on the wall. Security monitors. Old, grainy, but live. One showed the hallway. One showed the stairwell. One, the service corridor. And another, their hotel room.
Live.
Streaming. Camera tucked into the lamp beside the bed. And standing in the middle of the room, arms crossed, head tilted, was Chase. He wasn't downstairs anymore. He'd never left the floor. He'd been watching. Every move. Every word. Emily stepped beside him, eyes locked on the screen. No, no, no. He turned to her. Emily, he asked, his voice hollow. How long has he been watching us? Her lips parted, but she didn't answer. Because in that moment, on the screen, Chase turned to the camera.
And smiled.
His smile wasn't casual. It wasn't warm. It was knowing, calculated, like he could see them standing there, watching him watch them. Then, he lifted something. A phone.
Hers.
Still unlocked. He tapped the screen. The security monitors flickered. Static hissed through the speakers above. One by one, the screen shut off, until only one remained. The boiler room. A live feed. Of them. They both stared. Frozen. Emily's breath caught.
No.
No, he didn't. But she knew. He had access. Every camera. Every feed. And now, he was watching them. From their own screen. Then came the voice. Not from the hallway. Not from outside the room. But from inside the boiler room speaker. Smile for me, Emily. She screamed.
Loud. Raw.
He pulled her back. Turned off the monitor with a slam of his hand. The screen went black. But the voice kept coming. You never said goodbye, it whispered. Dripping with resentment. You just disappeared. She covered her ears. I blocked him. I blocked everything. How did he do this? How did he get in? He looked around, the reality sinking in. This wasn't a moment of obsession. This was planned. Wires along the walls. A laptop open in the corner. Blinking. Live software running. He ran to it, scanning the screen. A custom program. IP logins. A direct stream connected to his name, his email. His voice dropped. He's not just watching you. He turned the screen so she could see. He's been watching me too. Emily collapsed into the corner. Hands over her face. I thought it was over. I changed my number. I changed cities. He knelt beside her. Eyes locked on hers. What exactly did you get into with him? Silence.
She didn't want to say it.
But the pounding at the back of the room answered for her. It was no longer footsteps. No longer knocking. It was metal. Grinding. The vent behind them, the one he'd kicked shut, was bending. Someone, was prying it open. From inside. She looked at him, eyes wide with fear. Voice barely a whisper. I didn't just leave him. She swallowed. I stole something. He didn't even have time to ask what. Because a hand reached through the vent. The fingers curled around the edge of the metal, pale and scraped, pulling with unnatural strength.
Screech.
The vent tore further open, metal groaning like it was alive. He grabbed a nearby wrench off the boiler.
Heavy. Cold.
Ready. Emily scrambled back, staring at the widening hole in the wall, like it was opening into another world, one she thought she'd escaped. Then the rest of the arm emerged. A wrist covered in duct tape scars. Tattoos half-faded. Knuckles red and raw. She whispered, I didn't know he'd find me again. Asterisk, what did you take, Emily? Asterisk, he asked, his grip tightening on the wrench. But the vent groaned again. A head forced its way through. Eyes first.
Wide.
Pupils dilated. And smiling. Always smiling.
Chase.
Asterisk, found you. Asterisk, he hissed through clenched teeth. He twisted his body, snaking through the vent like he didn't feel pain. Emily screamed, lunging for the laptop. He swung the wrench. Hard. Cracked it against the vent. Metal shrieked, but Chase didn't stop. Emily frantically typed. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, tears blurring her vision. Come on, come on.
The screen changed.
A map. Pinged locations. A red blinking. Their room. Their hotel. Emily, he yelled, swinging again, this time hitting Chase's shoulder. But Chase laughed.
Laughed.
You think this is about you? He growled, voice distorted and wet with rage. Emily didn't look up. She opened a folder, labeled PHX 7. Encrypted files. She started dragging them to a trash icon. He stared at her. What is that? Proof, she said, still clicking, of what he did. To others. Chase shoved further through. Now halfway out. Blood smeared across the boiler pipe. I trusted you, he growled, his voice changing now. More guttural. Asterisk, you used me. Asterisk? She screamed back. I exposed you. And hit delete. The files vanished. The screen blinked. The vent collapsed. Chase fell through, entire body hitting the ground. He was up in seconds.
Fast.
Too fast. And then, the power in the room cut out. Darkness swallowed everything. Instant. Total. The hum of machines died. The lights overhead blinked once. Then went black. Only their breathing remained. Shallow. Staggered. Then, a dragging sound. Metal on concrete. He still had the wrench. He tightened his grip. Listened. Waited. Emily, he whispered. Stay down. She didn't respond. But he could hear her sobs. Muffled now. Somewhere to his left. The dragging stopped. Silence. Then a whisper. Low. Closer than before. Too close. You erase the files.
Pause.
You think that means it's over? The voice seemed to be coming from all around them. It echoed through the pipes, bounced off the walls, sank into the concrete. She gasped, I sent backups.
To the FBI.
To a reporter in LA. It's already done. Footsteps now. Measured.
Slow.
Like he was no longer rushing. Just enjoying. He raised the wrench. Eyes straining in the dark. A whisper brushed his ear. Liar.
He swung.
Hard. Nothing. Then, movement behind him. Too fast. He turned, and Chase tackled him from the side, slamming them both against the boiler tank. The metal clanged. The air rushed out of his lungs. The wrench skidded away, lost in the dark. Emily screamed again, but couldn't see them. Only shadows.
Grunts.
Skin hitting concrete. Chase's hand wrapped around his throat.
Tight.
Relentless. You think you can protect her?
He hissed.
She doesn't love you. She used you, too. He choked, clawed at the grip, his vision blurring. But then,
a click.
A familiar sound. Pepper spray. A sharp hiss sliced through the dark. Chase howled, reeling back.
Gasping.
She had sprayed him full in the face. He stumbled, hands over his eyes, screaming, I can't see. She ran to him, helped him up, her arms shaking. They didn't wait, didn't speak. They bolted, through the dark, past the boiler, toward the emergency exit. But then, the fire alarm triggered. Red lights strobed across the room. Screeching sirens blared. And through the flashes, they saw Chase, standing again, bleeding, blind, and smiling. Because in that moment, above the chaos, a new sound rang out. Hotel security, banging on the outside door, shouting. But Chase, he just raised one hand, waved slowly, and whispered. Too late. The door burst open. 2 hotel security guards in dark uniforms rushed in, flashlights drawn, batons ready. Red lights pulsed across the room, casting everything in surreal, strobing shadows. Step away from them, hands where we can see them. But Chase didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there, smeared in blood and pepper spray, his eyes squinting against the light. Still smiling, he raised his hands, slowly, almost mockingly. Emily backed up against the wall, her legs giving out. She slid to the floor, shaking. He dropped to his knees, gasping, finally catching his breath. The pressure on his throat still pulsed. The guards approached. One cuffed Chase without hesitation. The other kept his flashlight pointed straight at his face. You're done, man, one muttered. You're going to jail tonight. Chase chuckled.
Dry. Crooked.
I've already been to jail, he said. You think that stops anything? They dragged him up.
He didn't resist.
Didn't scream. Just whispered as they pulled him past. To Emily. So quiet no one else could hear. You think this ends with me? You don't even know who's watching now. She froze. And in that instant, something clicked in her mind. Not fear. Not confusion. Recognition. As if Chase wasn't alone in all this. As if this went deeper. They pulled him from the room. The sirens faded down the hallway. Security radioed it in. The hotel's fire alarm was finally silenced. He stood there, watching Emily. She hadn't moved. She was still staring at the empty doorway, still hearing his voice. And then she said, "I don't think this is over." And her phone, left on the boiler floor, vibrated. Once. Then again. No name. Just a number. Unknown. She picked it up with trembling fingers. Opened the message. A single image. A photo of them. In the vent. Taken from behind. From inside. At a moment when Chase was in front. She dropped the phone. Her voice cracked. That wasn't him. He stared at her. Her face drained of color. The phone lay face up on the floor. The photo still glowing. A grainy shot, but unmistakable. His hand on her ankle. Her face twisted in panic. And the frame behind them. Someone else. Farther back. Just eyes. Watching. Not Chase. Someone else. He picked up the phone. His hands cold. Scanned the sender. No name. Just a series of numbers.
Blocked.
Encrypted. Untraceable. He looked at her. How many people did he send those files to? She shook her head slowly. I don't know. Her voice was barely audible. I thought it was just him. He paced back, the boiler hissing behind him, his thoughts racing, trying to stitch something together that refused to make sense. She whispered, "It wasn't just obsession." She looked up at him, eyes filling again, but not just with fear, with guilt. It was a network.
He stopped. Stared.
What are you saying? She hugged herself. I was with him for 3 months. At first he was charming. Then, I saw things. Files. Live feeds. Names. Her voice cracked. They weren't just watching me. They were watching dozens of women. Maybe more.
People like me.
People who got too close. And people who tried to leave. He sank to the floor beside her. So, you took the files. She nodded. I thought I sent them to the right people. I thought deleting them tonight would end it. He handed her back the phone. The photo was gone. Vanished. Just a blank message thread now. Deleted remotely. Like someone was still in control. In the silence, a low sound echoed from above. Air ducts shifting, like something moving through them.
Dislodged.
Maybe just the system rebooting. Maybe not. They sat there, neither speaking. For a long time, the hotel's intercom came on. A voice.
Soft. Calm.
False alarm. All clear. We thank you for your patience. But they didn't move. They didn't trust it. She finally stood. I need to disappear again. He looked at her. Not surprised. Just sad. He stood too. Wiped the sweat from his face. You won't go alone. She blinked. You're not afraid?
He paused.
I am. He looked toward the exit. But I'm more afraid of what happens if we don't run.
She grabbed his hand.
For the first time that night, no shaking, no lies, just 2 people holding on to whatever trust could still exist. In a world that had been watching, long before they ever knew, they walked out of the boiler room, down the back stairwell, into the early dawn, where the city was quiet again, and the shadows were just starting to fade. Somewhere, a camera blinked, and someone, somewhere, began watching, all over again. The streets were still damp from the night. Washington's skyline barely glowed against the pale horizon, and the traffic was hushed, like the city itself had paused. They didn't speak much as they walked, just held hands, moved with purpose. At a corner diner, they ducked inside, ordered coffee they didn't drink, watched the world start up again. From a booth near the window, Emily stared at her reflection in the glass, her hair a mess, her face tired, but her eyes, those had changed. He leaned across the table. You said it was a network. She nodded. Some of them had badges.
Some worked in tech.
Law enforcement even. He didn't flinch. He'd already suspected. It made sense in a way that was worse than denial. She lowered her voice. They shared more than videos. They traded control, access, like it was a game. He gripped his cup, the ceramic warm against his palms. We'll need help. Someone who isn't bought. She nodded, but her eyes were still far away. Someone who doesn't exist anymore. He reached into his jacket, pulled out a folded napkin. On it, an address. A friend from college. Ex-military. Now working deep in cybersecurity. Quiet. Off-grid. They left cash on the table. No phones. No cards. Nothing traceable. And as they stepped outside, just as the first sunbeam hit the Capitol dome, a black SUV slowed at the far end of the street. Tinted windows. No plates. They didn't wait. Slipped into the side alley. Through fences. Through narrow brick corridors that smelled of wet trash and diesel, until the car was gone. Until the city felt small again. They took a bus west. Then another. Bought burner phones from a gas station in Virginia. Ditched them an hour later. They stopped being seen. Stopped being reachable. But still, there were signs. A man on the platform staring too long. A van parked on the shoulder. Engine running but no driver. A hotel clerk who smiled too knowingly. When Emily didn't give her real name, they slept in shifts. Moved every day. He built firewalls on burner laptops. She wrote everything she remembered. Names. IPs. Passwords. Faces. One night, months later, in a quiet farmhouse in rural Colorado, she handed him a drive. This is everything I know. He looked at her. And when this gets out? She didn't smile, just looked toward the window, where the mountains sat silent and the night felt safe. They'll come again, she said, but we won't be running this time. He tucked the drive into a steel case, buried it under the floorboards. They stayed off the grid, but they didn't hide. Instead, they watched. And somewhere, on a server in a dark room they couldn't see, a new message appeared in a private thread. PHX 7. Breach detected. Trace compromised. Activate next protocol. But by then, Emily had already written her own. That winter, the mountains wrapped them in silence. The snow came early, thick and relentless. Each morning, he'd clear the satellite dishes, realign the antennas. She spent hours in the loft, typing line after line of code, rewriting her story in digital armor, turning memories into evidence, into leverage. They didn't speak much about what they'd lost. But sometimes, in the stillness, he'd find her staring out at the tree line, eyes sharp, like she was listening for a sound only she could hear. Then one morning, the power blinked. Just once. Long enough for both of them to feel it. Long enough to matter. He was at the server console in seconds. Logs scanned. Backups checked. No breach. No trace. But she knew. They both did. This wasn't over. That night, she opened a sealed envelope she had carried since Virginia. Inside, a secondary drive, a note in Chase's handwriting, and a USB key marked with only 2 words, dead switch. She placed it on the table between them, looked up. Before I left, I made him believe he had me completely. I gave him just enough to feel invincible. But this. She tapped the drive. This is the part 1 kept for myself. He read the note in silence. It wasn't a confession. It was a warning. From a man who thought he'd win. A man who didn't realize he was teaching his victim how to beat him. She reached for her laptop, opened the offline terminal, inserted the key. A single screen lit up. A map. Dozens of reds across the U.S. Names. Coordinates. Coded messages and aliases. Buried in financial statements. Shell companies. State records. He leaned in. Is this all of them? Her voice was steady. No. But it's enough to shake the hive. He sat back. The weight of it all sinking in. They weren't just running anymore. They were holding the match. Over a very dry forest. She turned to him. When I send this, we won't be ghosts anymore. He nodded. I know. Outside. Snowflakes drifted in the wind. The world was quiet, like the breath before a storm. And somewhere down the ridge, in a black SUV they hadn't seen until now, a phone buzzed. A screen lit up. PHX 7 confirmed. Target resurfaced. Initiate final retrieval. Asterisk asterisk. And the tires began to roll. The tires crunched softly over the fresh snow. Headlights off. Moving slow, deliberate, like predators that already knew where the prey would run. But Emily and he, they didn't run. In the cabin, the terminal screen blinked. Upload ready. She stood up, looked around one last time. The photos on the wall, faces they'd borrowed from a life before. The old boots by the door. The cabin that had been both cage and sanctuary. He reached into the drawer, pulled out the second drive, the decoy, slipped it into a plain envelope, sealed it with a strip of red wax. We leave it by the firewood, he said. They'll find it. They'll think they've won. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Then we let the real one go global. He nodded, pulled the satellite link back online. The upload began, encrypted, routed through thousands of proxies, slipping like smoke across the web. And at the exact moment the SUV reached the cabin, when boots hit the snow and black-gloved hands reached for weapons, the drive hit 100%. Transfer complete. Emily stood by the back door.
Coat on.
Bag slung. No panic in her voice, only clarity. You ready? He glanced once more at the screen, then at her. I am now. They stepped out the back. No noise. No alarms. Just the mountains and the darkness swallowing the stars above. As they vanished into the tree line, a second signal quietly pulsed from a buried beacon near the well. The final trigger. A message sent to dozens of trusted sources. Journalists, whistleblowers, watchdogs. The story they'd buried was now free. And back at the cabin, when the door burst open and agents stormed inside, they found only cold coffee, a dead fire, and silence. On the laptop screen, one last message blinked. You were never watching us. We were watching you. Asterisk asterisk.
Then it shut down.
And in the quiet that followed, as the wind picked up and snow swept across their tracks, the storm they had started was just beginning.